Hello out there, everyone. I hope this video finds you all healthy and safe and that your spring breaks were, if not eventful, then at least restful. As today's lesson is a Wikipedia Lab, we're not going to have a long lecture today. I just want to go over some of the basics of what I'm going to be looking at when I look at your rough drafts tomorrow. That's right, I said rough drafts. I hope you've all been checking your emails and the announcements page on Blackboard because we announced last week that you will need a rough draft of the edits of your Wikipedia final project by midnight tonight. So what exactly am I expecting from this rough draft? Okay, first off, relax. I'm not expecting this thing to be polished and finished yet. There may be parts where you have written down that you need more information, or that you don't have the language quite down yet. That's okay. I'm looking for the following. 1. You've added materials to the stub that add new information to it. 2. You're backing up this new information with citations. And 3. Your tone meets Wikipedia standards for neutral point of view. Which brings us to the topic I need to discuss today, the idea of neutral point of view. So what is neutral point of view? Well, to understand this, you have to remember what Wikipedia is. It's an encyclopedia. And as we learned in Module 1, encyclopedias, like most reference sources, are designed to give brief summaries of the facts on a topic. Unlike primary sources, they're not intended to be first-hand accounts of an event or idea, nor are they supposed to be as detailed as a secondary source. They're supposed to be brief, factual overviews of a topic, designed to give the reader a foundation from which they can go forth and do deeper research. However, facts aren't always uncontested things. Sure, most people aren't going to get into heated disputes about the law of gravity, though we seem to have a lot of problems about whether the Earth is round or not. But questions of geography, history, literature, or music, oh, things get ugly really fast. For example, consider the case of a little town on the Baltic Sea called Gdansk. Now, Gdansk is a port town in Poland, and has been since 1945. But for about 1,000 years before that, the city now known as Gdansk went by a different name, Danzig, and it was a German city in a German region that would become the Kingdom of Prussia. But after the Second World War, Poland's borders were moved westward. The Soviet Union took over a large chunk of what had been eastern Poland, and the Poles were compensated by large chunks of eastern Germany. Of course, the Germans weren't happy about this exchange, and hard feelings understandably remained between Poles and Germans about the Second World War. What does this have to do with Wikipedia? Well, when the article for the city formerly known as Danzig was originally created in Wikipedia, there were rather bitter edit wars between people as to what the actual name of the city was and what should be used. Finally, Wikipedia forced a consensus. For articles dealing with the city post-1945, the city's name would be Gdansk. For articles dealing with the city before 1945, the city's name would be Danzig. This illustrates Wikipedia's general stance on factual disputes. The website generally does not take sides in partisan disputes, and in all cases seeks a consensus view that is generally acceptable. Wikipedia articles are to be neutral in tone, but they aren't supposed to support any particular cause or point of view. Rather, they're supposed to provide a neutral portrayal of the facts. And Wikipedia editors can be ruthlessly quick in nuking sections of an article, or even entire articles, that don't meet the neutral point of view. So what does this mean for you? Well, for some of you, this might not mean much at all. You might not feel very strongly either way about your topic, and this might not be much of an issue. However, some of you have picked articles you feel strongly about, and you're going to have to check your passion and simply report the facts on your topic. To do this, ask yourself the following questions. 1. Do I feel strongly about this topic? 2. If so, what are your biases? 3. Are those biases reflected in your writing? And finally, if they are, how? If you can identify biases in your writing, you should of course ask yourself one more question. How do I present this information without biases? Now, if that last question seems difficult, you're absolutely right, which is why I'll be looking over your submissions and making suggestions to you on how to do this. Please pay attention to those suggestions because I'm going to be looking for the ways you fix them when I grade your finals. With that in mind, I should also cover a few housekeeping issues. So for this assignment, you will not be submitting me a link to your sandbox. You're going to be copying and pasting your final draft into a Word document, and then you will be highlighting the parts of the draft that you added to it. This should include any images or citations that you've added. You're going to take this document and you're going to submit it to me through Blackboard. Now, if you have any questions, I will be available for consultations during office hours today, which should be between the hours of noon and 2, and I'll be available via email throughout the entire day. So good luck out there, guys, and stay healthy.